It's not often that we hear about a new logo being rolled out in American television. Give or take a few renames and relaunches, the faces of American television have looked mostly the same for much of the last decade, particularly at Viacom CBS. But that might secretly be changing for one of their highest profile channels. Is a new logo for MTV on the horizon? And if so, does it look any good? Most of Viacom CBS's American channels haven't had much done with their logos or brand designs since the flurry of rebrands they had heading into and throughout the early 2010s. For instance, BET's current logo dates to 2011, though hardly tweaking a 2005 design. Comedy Central rebranded in 2018, but its logo is a thicker version of what launched in 2011. VH1's current logo debuted in 2013, TV Land went through some things before settling on its current look in 2015, and of course Nickelodeon launched its modern logo all the way back in 2009. MTV came not long after Nick in February 2010. Their then new logo cut up and modernized the classic shapes to bring the channel into a brand new post-opulence realistic era. Most of the elements from the original 2010 rebrand package have since been thrown away, as the TV concept of accelerated flow has sped up into a singularity, but there are still bits of it around in the channel's sponsorship spots and, prior to a year or two ago, in the channel's promotional lower thirds, with the original 3-box highlighter style being changed into a singular bar. This is where binge-watching ridiculousness for 4 years has gotten me. Like with a lot of channels in the US these days, you'd be forgiven for feeling as if MTV doesn't have much of an overarching brand at all. Viacom CBS is one of the worst offenders in that regard. They don't have any idents, there's not much visual consistency between promos. Aside from the logo, there's not much window dressing or overarching design to suggest that you're watching MTV and here's what we stand for. Admittedly, we're bad at that sort of thing as a country, comparatively, but MTV is one of the places where the lack of clear brand presence is most glaring. What's left of their brand might be getting changed soon, however, if how MTV's been looking in 2021 so far is any indication. During promos for the channel's shows, usually the MTV logo is used in a lockup with the logo of the show in question, in lieu of showing the logo separately following the show logo or title and tune-in information, as is traditional. In recent promos for new episodes of shows like Jersey Shore Family Vacation, Floribama Shore, and The Challenge, there appears to be a different MTV logo than the one currently in use. When I first saw it on a promo for Teen Mom OG in advance of their 9th season in January 2021, I thought nothing of it, and when it later appeared in promos for the return of Floribama Shore for its 4th season in February, it looked like a mistake. But it's been popping up with more consistency now, even featuring on all of the commercials and promos for Viacom CBS's nascent corporate synergy streaming service, Paramount Plus, in contexts where the channel logos are displayed alongside the streamer's logo. But it hasn't changed in many of the places that viewers would more obviously notice, such as the channel bug, the US and international websites, social media pages, or the network's apps. So, what exactly is going on? Well, that's not entirely clear from a layman's perspective, but it does appear that the channel's social media posts have been updated to the new logo and a new typeface, and the new logo is in use for MTV's parent division within Viacom CBS, MTV Entertainment Group, which is responsible for all of their cable networks besides Nick, BET, and Showtime, and their respective spin-offs. I wouldn't have entirely read into there being a new logo based on just the social posts alone, as those have been incongruent with the network's linear presentation for a while. But the fact that it's already starting to be used in corporate contexts within Viacom CBS, such as in the Entertainment Group and on Paramount Plus, suggests MTV is serious about changing its logo. MTV's international channels might be a little miffed given they just rebranded in 2018, finally adopting the US's Helvetica tendencies in the process, but those are relatively minor quibbles. So, just what is the new MTV logo exactly? Well, it's a refinement of the 2010 logo, in essence, which itself was, as aforementioned, a radical simplifying of the network's original logo from 1981. That refinement gets rid of any semblance of three-dimensionality and depth expressed in the 2010 logo, reducing it to a very flat, two-dimensional icon. It looks similar to the version of the MTV logo used for the VMAs, since they started using a consistent brand in 2017. There are tweaks to the logo, but they'd be hard to spot at a distance, or at a small size on air, as it'll likely be seen. Beyond just getting rid of the depth suggestion, the M has been reworked, keeping the size of the straight sides the same as the previous logo, but widening the middle and making the bends in the M perfect right angles at a 45-degree tilt. They were both unevenly sized before, with the top angle being slightly acute and the bottom one being a little obtuse. This change was already present in the VMA's logo, but the proportions otherwise aligned to the 2010 logo. The bottom edge of the M has also notably been raised up comparatively. The TV lettering has also been repositioned, higher up within the M than it was before, so you can see more of the bottom of the T, and reshaped, especially with the V. The new design makes the TV lettering appear tighter and narrower within the M, even though the spacing hasn't changed. The big question I have is, why do this? To me, this new logo feels unnecessary. The 2010 logo still looks more than modern and current enough, and while you could make the argument that the new logo is clearer, particularly at smaller sizes, the depth effect wasn't much of a detriment to begin with. The main elements of the logo are still more than clear enough to make out what brand you're looking at. Plus, the new logo introduces a new problem that will soon grow nagging, at least for me. While the two sides of the M are the same width as each other, as aforementioned, the TV lettering on the right side takes out a considerable chunk of visual space and makes that side of the logo look optically thinner and uneven. This could be corrected by thinning out the left side or stretching out the right side to compensate, but this problem was already non-existent in the 2010 logo, because the depth effect, which extended the logo rightward, gave the TV lettering the extra space it needed to resolve in a visually pleasing and balanced way. Removing that effect from the 2010 logo creates this same problem. And perhaps most crucially, no one's going to really notice the ways this logo has changed. I had to throw the logos into an art program for an hour while writing this just to find out that there even were the differences that I just described earlier. To most people, including myself at first glance, this is just going to look like a worse quasi-knockoff version of the 2010 logo. If you're going to change the logo, why not do it in a more radical way? I know that there's a lot of brand equity that's been built up over the past 11 years with the 2010 logo that you want to keep, but if you want to do that, why not just keep the 2010 logo and change whatever the other branding elements you want around it as desired, like with the 2018 International rebrand? This logo isn't an improvement or does anything better, like with the 2010 logo compared to the original, nor does it change enough from the previous logo to be noticeably different. So it's stuck in a worst of both worlds scenario that makes the idea of changing the logo at all seem frivolous and unnecessary. If they're really going to go through with changing the still iconic MTV logo, I feel like they should have done it differently. The clearest thing they could have done was to make it look noticeably different than the previous logo to begin with, but sparing that, they shouldn't have introduced any new problems in the way they have with the optical interpretation issue. I don't think MTV is in need of a major tonal break or positioning shift that a new logo usually tends to signify, and Viacom CBS apparently doesn't feel so either, which makes the relatively minimal level of effort they put into this change, compared to, say, Comedy Central's past two rebrands, or the generalist pivot of Spike, make more sense from a strategic standpoint. But if little else around it is changing, then why change the logo at all? The only thing that could rationalize this new logo a little more is if the new typeface the channel is currently using on social media makes its way to the network at some point. But that's not a guarantee, and it's unclear if MTV still has enough on-air branding elements still in use to make that change knowable. They could, of course, introduce new elements, but the superfluousness of idents and bumpers in the status quo that is accelerated flow, at least in its modern application, makes that unlikely. It's something I'll have to keep an eye on, and chances are I almost certainly will. Season 21 of Ridiculousness is gonna start any day now. If you want more branding discussion like this in future, then hit subscribe to see that, plus more new explorations of the world of TV every single week. In the meantime, you can watch the first episode of my in-depth series on branding, Rebrand Review, up here or down in the description. I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and I'll see you next time.